grab your cup of coffee or water or orange juice. Today, we are going to be talking about how to take your child's passion for music and turn them into high school credit under the music electives track. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching today. We are in the office filming today because we're going to be doing screen grabs because computer's still being technical and Matt will fix it. I needed to do a lot of filming today and we're just going to be talking about it today. So music track, let's talk music track for a minute. So I was recently with our homeschool helpers group and my dog is going to whine, so sorry about that. But he is going to be whining for a minute. So, music electives track. What is a music electives track? So basically what you do is, if your child is passionate about something, you can actually follow specific tracks or when I say track, I mean a group of classes that your child can take all the way through high school based on things that they want to learn. So in this case today, we are focusing on specifically music, but I would love for you guys to come back every Thursday from now through the month of March and April, because we're going to be talking about a wide variety of class tracks coming up. And all my goal here is to show you how to take things that your child is already passionate about and give them high school credit for these classes. So let's turn your attention towards the Google spreadsheet and I will show you exactly how this works. So let's talk again real quick, and we are going to mention the fact that these classes are 100% based on the East Tennessee area, because that is what I am familiar with. But in the state of Tennessee, these are classes that I know for a fact that you can take or that your child can take and get these high school credits for. So what we're going to do is we're going to open up a brand new spreadsheet and we are simply going to title it Music Electives Track. And all I'm going to be doing is doing some screen grabs because again, my screen recording is not working very great right now. Blank spreadsheet, Music Electives Track. The goal for all these upcoming videos is I'm going to be showing you the class name, the specific things to study to fulfill those classes, and what years to complete them in. So let's get started. Music Electives Track. The first thing you're going to be doing is year 1. Now, let me emphasize right here. I am not saying you have to dead set do all of this or your child doesn't get credit for music in high school. These are suggestions and prompts for somebody, hey, you're new to homeschooling, you're new to starting high school, and when you first start high school, even if you've homeschooled your kids since birth, high school can be so intimidating looking because there's all these requirements that they have to graduate. It's actually not that scary once you get into it. And honestly, the high school years have been some of my favorite ones to plan classes for. Are some of the classes hard? Yes, I'm glaring at you, math class. I don't like high school math classes. But I will say that once you get into it, you're going to have so much fun. So that's my goal, is I want you guys to have fun while you do this. So the first one we're going to look at is year 1, and year 1 is so incredibly easy. If your child is looking into music, they probably currently are already doing music. Therefore, for year 1, we are simply doing music. Literally. I'm not kidding. That's what it is. So let's talk about some requirements. So yes, literally for starting music, it's easy. Your child just needs to do something that is involved in music. Let's talk about one of mine for an example, just because I actually have one on semi-music electives track, sort of. So for freshman year, her dad gave her his second guitar, and it was a guitar that he had bought with the intention of eventually giving it to one of the girls. So for year 1 music, under here where it says music, insert name of instrument, she would put music/guitar. Now some homeschool umbrella schools, if you're using an umbrella school, already have a list that you can fill in of instruments. If not, you can actually email them, petition, and be like, I'm putting this instrument, but I'm actually doing this. Or in the description, you can just put, it says violin, but this instrument was on an option, so I'm doing viola or cello instead, and you can put that in the description box. And you literally can just start giving your child credit for anything that they're already doing with music. So if they already are playing an instrument, That's great. The goal is 150 hours in an entire school year. Any homeschool courses, again, I'm talking mostly about the state of Tennessee, but usually in general, any homeschool courses where it's not like you are filling this out for this class, like we've talked about for PE, community service hours, we'll get to that in a couple of videos, but classes where it's not like you are sitting down with book work, but it's still a required class or an alternative class or an electives class in this case, you have goal hours. In the state of Tennessee, it's 150 hours. What that looks like. So last week we talked about the school calendar. When you look at a 5-day school calendar for a week, usually, and looking at 2 of my seniors right now, usually 4 hours is not a difficult thing to fill, like for hours, right? What, right? Because that's not even an hour a day if you do 5 days a week. And that doesn't even include like Saturdays, right? So like whenever you were doing, you did 4 years of Spanish and 2 years of ASL. Was it hard to get that 30 minutes a day to get the 150 hours for Spanish? Yeah. So when you're already homeschooling, that 150 hours will go a lot faster than you think. Because also there were days where she did do extra stuff. Like there was some extra challenges in Duolingo or things like that where they would go over. And I would let them just go over if they needed to or wanted to. And they weren't like, we weren't like overwhelmed with getting caught up on anything else. Which with homeschool, you don't ever actually really get behind. That is the goal. It's just to do that 150 hours. Like I said, you can specifically, now when I put on here music/vocal, that's how our umbrella school puts it. Which I'm not selling their information. I am selling the tips to be able, not selling, I'm sharing the tips to you on how to put these in. These are just example class names, and I'm using some examples from other classes, and also like literally you can Google and find class names for high school, and it's on there. So music/vocal or music, and then insert the name of the instrument. This is where music becomes easy though, because once you've finished year 1, you literally are copying and pasting for year 2. Like it's the exact same thing. You are just filling the same thing. It's just 150 hours. And what you would put is if your umbrella school or whoever you report to for the state, if you have to, like in New York, if they require you to put something different, New York and California are way more strict on homeschooling. If you have to put something different, just put vocal 2 or guitar 2. And they will say that by that point, if your child's already filled 150 hours, they should not still be introduction to name instrument. They should be in a little more specific of a category. This is also the point that if you have the money for it, you might look into like actual music lessons. Now, I will also specify that you do not actually have to do music lessons to complete this. It's the 150 hours goal. If you do music lessons, that does help, but you don't actually have to pay a music lesson teacher for these classes to be completed. It does make it easier for families that are on a tighter budget. But like say like for me personally, I played clarinet in school. I know how to read music, so I can teach my kids how to read music. I also can buy them resources of videos that teach them how to do things. We have a video resource for one of our ASL books that teaches you how to sign them the way exactly that deaf people do. You can use video tools. There are so many online things. Another thing that we looked at as Christian parents is like there are several Chris Tomlin videos on YouTube, and we pull it up on kid-friendly search so that there's not as many ads. But you can pull up Chris Tomlin videos, and somebody has taken, I don't know if it's Chris Tomlin himself or if somebody else has taken, like, showing you how to hold your hands to play the guitar while you're playing that song. So, like, that could also be step 2. You're now past the, how do I play this specific note? How do I play this specific chord? Now you're going to learn how to apply that to play completed work. And then by the end of year 2, you should be able to play, like, a little more advanced or a little more intermediate skill songs by the time you finish the class, and that could be your quote-unquote final. For vocal, let me plug this in as well. One of the things that does count as vocal is if your child is in like a choir or a church choir and they have weekly or bi-weekly practices and they're practicing the songs at home, that counts. You can also count that towards the vocal credit, which my teens are like, why was some of this not a thing whenever we started doing high school? There are some of the classes they literally just added at the end of this school year that my ones that are graduating would have taken, and they're a little frustrated about that right now in the background while they're eating their breakfast. That is a thing now. Like if your child is in church choir, kids choir, whatever, and kids choir for like younger kids, you can put this in for your younger kids too. If like some school, I think I've heard New York sometimes requires electives for like elementary, middle school, which is like absurd to me. But anyways, because in Tennessee, the only class that's required in elementary school, or the only two classes required, are math and literature, and like history and science are electives. So, and then math is the only class that's required full 180 days, K through 12. It's so easy to fill that in. Like I said, if they're doing those, if they're practicing the songs at home, that counts. Like give them, like set a timer, 30 minutes, you're going to work on this. And usually like what our choir does is like he sends video links for the specific practice that they do, and then they practice with those. Now we are going to be talking about year 3. And this is one of my absolute favorite class tracks, and it is simply called Music History. And most umbrella schools, that's what they call it as well. So what is music history? It's literally the study of the history of music. And this is such a fun class that you can go with. So the first thing that you can do for fun for this class is literally make a timeline of composers. And I'm talking like you can stretch this thing if you don't mind putting stuff on your walls. You can literally like stretch this out and like add it to your wall. And then every time you go through a composer, which this is something that would be based on you. Like if you only have one child in your homeschooling, you could do a different composer a week. Possibly every 2 weeks, every month. And what you could do ahead of time for this class, this will take a little bit more additional legwork, but once you get started, it would be so fun. So one of the things you could either like make posters on the wall, or you can actually make like a foldable timeline in a book. There's tips online on how to do that, but ahead of time, plan out, okay, these are the composers I specifically want to cover. Like, one of my favorite ones is still actually making music right now. But I also am a huge fan of like Bach, Mozart, Beethoven. And of course, as a former ballerina, one of my favorites is Tchaikovsky. So like, if I was to do this class, which I'm wanting one of my kids to do this, but they're on different elective paths, and that's okay. But one of the things I talked about to other people were make a list of those composers, and then basically multiply it out and be like, okay, well, how many of these how many times do I need to change over? Is it weekly, bi-weekly, monthly? Once your child has finished that spreadsheet across the school year, then at the end of whatever given time frame that is, quiz your child by playing a piece written by that composer, or you can play a series of pieces. Then you're just going to have them name the composer, the piece being played, and when it was composed. You can even give bonus points for what time frame does this composer live in? What was the music style of that era? Name like 3 other historical points about that specific time frame. Those are just like little extra things you can do, because I think one of the hugest, and you should, if you want some huge help with homeschooling, you should read my friend Margie's book, Myths of Education, Truths That Will Set You Free. But one of the things that she and I both talk about is most people have this misconception that schooling is they read a book, they answer questions, they take a test, and then you move on. That's not always the case. You literally could do this as a vocal course, especially like if you have a dyslexic child. They don't have to write any of this down. This can just be talking and communication, which also works on, speech and those things. So basically a conversation quiz is what I would call it with your child so that they can complete it. Another bonus thing that you can do here is buying a subscription to your local symphony. Now, this is something we have access to in the greater Knoxville area. You can buy a subscription to the Knoxville Symphony Orchestra. This could just be something bonus that you do. And instead of doing the timeline of composers, if you buy that subscription to the symphony for you and your child, which this would be more ideal for like if you only have 1 to 2 children. So like I get this is not for everybody, but like if you have that opportunity, instead of making the timeline of composers, you could just take your child to the symphony, quiz them on the pieces, and go home and study the pieces in between concerts. And you can go and look at the information on those specific composers. The next class we're going to move on to for your senior year is a class called Music Theory. What is music theory? Music theory you're starting with the same concept as movies as literature, but your child will have less writing and reading. So again, this is actually a great course for if you have a dyslexic child, because this is a very much more hands-on and listening skills kind of class. The first thing that you can do with this class, and I actually took this class in middle school and it became one of my absolute favorite classes in middle school. The only reason I ever share information like that when I say that I took something similar in public school is not like regretting homeschooling my kids. I'm saying that the reason why I will share it that way is because some people be like, well, that class won't work. They won't give me credit for that because homeschooling is different. If public school allows it and public school teaches it this way, I don't see why homeschool families can't modify it and make it work for them as well. Is basically what I'm saying. Is like, yes, the class already exists out there. Just customize it and make it work for you, if you guys understand what I'm saying. So, number one, you're just simply going to watch a musical with your child. Now, same concept as we were looking at with the music history with the composers. Start at the beginning of the school year. Make a list, and if you guys are on one of our members things, what I do for my members specifically as a way to thank them for their support is that they will get PDFs from me. So like if you ever join us and become a member and be like, hey, I want to do that music theory class, can you help me plan out, this is my schedule and these are the musicals I'm thinking, can you help me with this planning process? I can help you do that because that's, again, a bonus for our members for supporting our channel. Even if like you don't have the money to do that, go back and look at our movies as literature movies, or our videos on movies as literature. It's the same concept. Take your time frame, take whatever musicals you want to cover. If your child just hyperfixates and needs longer to complete work, I would only recommend like maybe one musical a month. Or if your child's really, really into music, you could do every week or every other week. Now, every week it is very much more intensive. So usually with this, I would recommend every other week or once a month. Once you have finished watching whatever musical you have picked for that time frame, every other week or a month, then you're going to move on to doing a study about the music from that musical. That could mean doing some research on the composer who wrote the music for that musical. It could be studying the music for that time frame. Or another fun one, my teens love doing compare and contrast. You could actually compare like music that was written for that musical versus what the music from that time frame actually would have sounded like. Or you can compare and contrast of what that one is versus like musical styles of today. So you can do different concepts of this. This is what I love about these kind of classes though when you do these, is you can also kind of use them as a dual class where you're debating. You could also set these up to where like, defend your reasoning why you do or don't like this musical. What would you have changed? You can also do those as kind of a back and forth for this class. So once they have already watched through it and decided what they want to talk about, then at the end of the month or every other week or whatever the time frame be, your child can give an oral report, or teen can give an oral report on what they have learned. And then that's it. That's all they would need to do for that class. It is a really fun class to be able to do because, like, especially if your child loves watching musicals, or if this point, like, you found a co-op that has like dramas or anything like that, or if they're involved in like church dramas or church choir, then they can kind of like intermingle all of that in together with all this as well. So that is it for the music electives track. Like I said, I kind of wish that I would have been able to start with some of my kids from the beginning to do this. But like I said, homeschooling is actually becoming more adaptive to giving kids credit for what they're already doing. Most homeschool kids are already involved in music, art, drama, all these classes that we're going to be talking about over the next several weeks on Thursdays. But they're already doing that. So why aren't we giving them high school credit for it? Because these are classes that exist in public school, private school, Christian school, high schools anyways. So I'm really excited about being able to share this with you guys, because this is a wonderful example of how you can tie these classes together and basically what I call it is giving your kids credit for what they're already doing and passionate about. Because I think also with high school, it can be scary and all the emotions and feelings, and being able to just give them credit for what they're already doing and something they're already passionate about, I think encourages them more to be able to learn and want to complete these classes. But that's it for today's video. Thank you to all of our members for supporting this content and allowing us to continue making videos. Message me if you want some of this information in PDF that we suggested today. And whether you can help support our channel or not, just watching these videos, if you got anything from this video, that's why we make them, number one. But number two, just watching, liking, positive comments, and subscribing does help to support our channel and allow us to continue keeping these videos free for you guys to show you how to do homeschooling for free to, you know, a little bit of money here and there, and be able to have fun on your homeschooling journey. And you guys, we will see you next time.